Hello everyone, KV here, and welcome back to my year in review. Today I'm going to be discussing a very popular game throughout the end of the year, since probably like September, maybe since August, I'm not quite sure. And I brought it back again, my good friend Maggie, to discuss Undertale. So, I did a blind run of this game. If you have not seen it, there will be a link to it somewhere in the description or in the video, so you can go ahead and look at that if you want, though if you do get easily upset by people not knowing what they're doing, you might not like it. I'll just throw that out there right now. I'm not sure if I brought this up in previous videos, but I'll bring it up again just so people know. We will probably be going to spoiler territory, at which point either a big spoiler will appear on the screen, or I'll literally say, okay, we're talking about spoilers. So if you have not played the game and you do not want it spoiled, we'll let you know when we get to that point. But for now, Undertale. How about that Undertale, Maggie?
Well, it was very charming Earthbound-esque-like game. It's got good stuff, it's got bad stuff.
Yep, that's a good summation. So, if you were to define Undertale, what would you say Undertale, like, I mean, it's Earthbound, but define, like, how Undertale plays and how it's different from other RPGs, whether that's for good or for worse.
Saying that it's like a traditional JRPG, like a lot of people have been saying, would be doing it wrong, because it's more of a puzzle game rather than a JRPG.
Yeah. So,
that first right there is the biggest difference, I think, with the fandom, when the fandom says it's an RPG-style game. Because I went into it thinking it was going to be an RPG.
I did too.
And I'm really into those JRPG games, because they're my favorite kind of genre, and then it wasn't. I mean, I still enjoyed the game.
I mean,
it's more of a puzzle game.
Visually wise, I can see some of the RPG elements, and it does technically have a battle system that's very RPG-ish, if you use it. The main mechanic of Undertale is the puzzle aspect of having puzzles that they don't really tell you are puzzles until you figure that out on your own, and that is a...
Yeah.
We'll get to, like, that's getting into some spoiler territory, but we'll get to what that means in a little bit. As for the rest of the game, it's pretty cute and charming. It has a very great soundtrack. It has a very good bunch of music to it, so that's really nice about it. Mm-hmm. And I do like some of the characters. I like the skeletons.
Skelebros are great.
Yep.
You know, Tori was great. Alphys is great. It had a lot of really good even the NPC characters, like the Monster Kid, like characters that didn't even have a real name. You still really liked, because they were just so charming and adorable.
I like the turtle guy.
Turtle guy. He sells you stuff.
Yeah.
Go buy all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, the basic plot of Undertale, we'll start to get into kind of spoilers territory, but basic plot of Undertale is that you are some kid that fell down a mountain because all the monsters in the world have been sealed away a long time ago, because some war broke out or something. And it is your quest to basically get out of there. You learn that this is not super easy to do because of reasons. That makes sense sometimes, and sometimes they just kind of drop the ball. Anything else we can discuss about the... I mean, I will bring up, like, the actual game battle system reminds me a lot of a minigame I played on Kirby Mass Attack called Kirby Quest, in which it was a moving line that you had to hit directly dead center or dead, like, wherever they determined the center space was. And I like that mechanic a lot, because it did make it feel kind of active, and that would also determine how much damage you did. I kind of like that aspect of it. The unfortunate part is that if you're playing the game correctly, quote-unquote correctly, you never use that.
Yeah.
And if you do, in a different way, it actually is completely useless. So I'm kind of on the fence about that, because it's like, that's actually a really cool battle system to me, and it's like, it's never utilized, so I'm kind of like, why is it even here in the first place? So, let's just, since people are so uppity, let's just, spoilers now. We're just gonna, spoilers, boom. It's spoiler time. So let's go on about how the game likes to end itself.
Yeah.
The game has 3 different paths. It has, or I guess there's a 4th one, but I haven't seen that one myself. But it has a neutral one, a pacifist run, and a genocide, or whatever the heck they want to call it now. I'll just Geno run, I guess. Sure, we'll go with that. The neutral run is, if you watch my videos, I go all the way through neutral run, pretty much because I don't know what I'm doing. And the game does not really teach you on what you need to be doing if you're deploying it the right way.
No, it doesn't teach you until after you've already encountered a few enemies. And it's pretty much expecting you to go online like everyone else did who got the game and look up the right way to get the pacifist ending your first time through.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't, I guess I'm curious, where do you think the game taught you? Because I'm thinking, gameplay mechanic-wise, I go and look at another game like Xenoblade or something, they introduce all the mechanics gradually, and they usually present you with a situation that teaches you how to use that mechanic. And when I think about the main mechanic of Undertale, which is not killing everyone, which is the puzzle part of trying to figure out how not to kill them, it never actually teaches you how not to kill people. It just tells you at some point, which is actually skippable dialogue if you don't want to even bother going with it, of how to not kill people. So that was kind of that's my main, that's just, it never teaches you, so you can't really fault people for getting crappy endings, because if the game doesn't bother to go out of its way to help you understand its mechanics, you shouldn't feel like it's your fault.
No, and I think that's one of the biggest problems the fandom has, is they get on anybody's case so hard for not understanding this when they're going through a blind run, but yet the game didn't do, as you said, it didn't teach you the way that they wanted you to play. I mean, I know there's you can play through the game no mercy, or you can play through the game complete pacifist, it's up to you to choose, but they should have made it more clear your 2 different choices, instead of saying, oh yeah, well, you messed up, so neutral one for you, too bad.
And pretty much, once you make your first blood, you have pretty much set yourself up for one of 2 endings, and you're pretty much barred out from getting the other one, even though if you learn what you're doing, and then you learn the mechanics, it's well, that's kind of pointless, because you get through the game, let's discuss the neutral ending final boss in a little bit, because that's bad, but you get through the game, and the game still kind of berates you, even though you figured it out, so it's kind of it's a game that, I think of Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is a game that, it's not super long, but it's a game that after you beat it, you think about maybe going back to play it, because you have the option to go and look for other endings. There's an easy way to do this, because literally, pretty quickly in the game, you have the ability to go fight the final boss at any time, and since you can carry over your stats and all that, you can really kind of play around with all the alternate endings. And Chrono Trigger ends on a decent note that it's sure, I'll play it again. When you're going through neutral endings in Undertale, that did not make me want to play the game again. That made me just okay, well, game, I'm done with you. If you hate me so much, I'm not coming back. And the only reason I came back in the first place was to kind of well, I guess I am curious, I'll try it out. But from a gameplay perspective, the game, for as much as it wants to like you, it really likes to kind of berate you at every turn, not as the character, but you as the player, and that kind of gets into more sticky stuff as to its kind of lackluster narrative, but yeah.
I always have a problem when a game breaks the 4th wall for something outside of humor. I mean, Earthbound, it did it right, because it made you feel like you went on a journey with these kids. Undertale, it got to the point where it just said, hey, guess what? You're a little piece of turds here on the floor.
Yeah, and so I guess the final boss of the neutral run, which you have to fight no matter what, even if you are doing the pacifist run, which was a fun thing to learn, because people told me about that, and I was or if you told me about that, and other people told me about that, and I was just really? The final boss, the original final boss, is everything wrong with internet memes as far as games go. It's a bullet hell piece of crap using like save states and stuff, and they eventually work into the narrative should you go back to play the other stories, but it's such an infuriating boss that it's like, really? I don't know how people are going to, unless you actively went into that game wanting to see everything in it, you're not going to really want to go and see everything in it, because you don't really feel a super huge attachment to a lot of things. And especially when it puts you through that kind of hell of a final boss in that neutral round, it just leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. The pacifist run, once you finally get past all the... You just don't kill anyone, and it kind of... Everything is a puzzle, and the final boss of the pacifist run is kind of unique and interesting, kind of also a little obnoxious in some regards, but mainly because I get to the final boss and I'm just like, can I just kill him? Because, I mean, I haven't killed anything, and clearly this guy's evil, so, you know, no, you gotta find the goodness in people's hearts, okay. And then it goes, well, I'm gonna go back to being evil eventually because plot. Okay, sure, but whatever.
Well, at least...
Yeah,
At least they all got out.
It was a cute ending.
It was.
Yeah.
The ending was sweet. It's just the path, the last 25% to get to that sweet part of the ending is kind of soured it a little bit, in my personal opinion. I liked it. It's just I would have liked it a lot more if I didn't have to jump through as many hoops as I had to tell the game, or to prove to the game, basically, that I was a quote-unquote good person.
Yeah. And I think that brings up like that whole system of what really bothers me about the game in general is its constantly berating the player just because of decisions they made or things like that, and they kind of tie it into the plot a little bit as to why they're doing that, but it's also kind of like, you guys are also just a bunch of jerks. Like, I mean, let's think of the real situation here. If someone comes down the street and starts beating the crap out of you, are you just gonna sit there and take it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what the game is telling you is the correct route to take. And in some regards, yes, sure, that's great, but you're still getting the shit beating out of you. What if you get killed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry for sorry. So that kind of like, that's definitely... Yeah, but... What probably also irks me is that in order to learn the full plot, you have to do all three storylines, and that never sits well with me. A game should have its storyline self-contained to one version, and you can learn other unique things about things in the other lines, but it's not like, in order to understand A, you need to have first played C. Which then brings us to the glory that is the Genocide Run. So, in this version of the game, you go and kill everyone. Because that's what it is. And honestly, it's boring. It's very boring. It's just grindfest the game with two unique bosses, one that's kind of and one that's really fun. And that final boss of the Genocide Run is super fun, but the game does this. Should you be in the Pacifist Run? After you close the game, it starts up and it says, hey, don't play me. It literally goes, hey, don't play me again. Which doesn't make any sense.
Everybody's happy, so why won't you let them be happy? It's basically trying to shame you for trying to reset the game and enjoying this experience all over again, which is just bad design, in my opinion, to prevent people from playing a game that you made.
Mm-hmm. And then the Genocide Run finally brings full circle, like, the whole fourth wall breaking, because it turns out humans have the ability to save their game. This brings back full circle why the neutral boss had the ability to save states or something, because literally, your power is to save the game, which is apparently a time manipulation power, so if you die, you don't die, you just come back and start it over again, which doesn't really add up. I don't get how that's supposed to work, and it's kind of it is a dumb, let's break the fourth wall, but not care why we're breaking the fourth wall, if that makes any sense.
It's trying to pull, I think, the person who's playing the game into the story more so they feel more connected, but at the same time it's also disconnecting because it's separate from the main story of the game. It almost seems like
Mm-hmm.
they have the main story of the game, and then next to it on the side is this fourth wall breaking, true quote unquote story of the character that you name, who's actually an evil little person.
Yeah, because that brings in the other thing, is that technically
no.
you don't even exist in the game. The character you play as is a different name. His name gets revealed at the end of the pacifist run, and the character that you name is a different character too. So technically, you don't even exist
all this
in that
hard
game.
work to go and try to make you feel like it's your fault for killing these people or not killing them is just wasted, because in the end it's not even you, it's the character.
And it's a huge disconnect. So it pretty much goes against everything the game is trying to work for, which is very sad, because I can see the intent, but that's a super hard thing to do. That's honestly like if you're writing a book, but instead of being in first person or third person, it's in second person, and so the book basically just goes, you wake up, you do this, you do that, and it's like, well, no, I don't do that because that's not me. Well, no, you do this. That's how it works, but that's not me. So no, it doesn't. And what makes me even more upset is in the Genocide run, that battle system, which I actually do enjoy, since you're basically killing everything, after like your first 3 battles, everything becomes a one-hit KO. So nothing is really interesting in that regard either, so it's just a boring, long trek to go fight an actual fun boss.
Thankfully it keeps a counter if you want to go through that special end of the game right there. And they have little cues like music changes and all that stuff, but it gets really tiring after a while. You just want to stop and just quit.
Yeah, or especially if he likes to crash a game. You know, intentionally crashing the game as part of the
No, I've never
game.
been too keen when a game purposely crashes itself for shock horror value, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't think that's good design whatsoever. That's in the final neutral ending boss, and it drove me nuts having to play that. And they do it again, too, when you get to the ending of the Genocide run, should you decide that you don't want to join the evil person, who then goes, you don't have a choice, you're not above the consequences, and it's like, I am above the consequences because I am the consequences. Literally everything that's happening in this world is a consequence of me playing the game, therefore, no, I'm above everything, screw you. And then, of course, the game's lovely, well, if you decide to do that, I'm going to make the pacifist ending terrible now because you were a bad person and taint your game for some reason. Like, I don't even understand why that was a thing, to be honest. I think that was another shock value thing that was just there for being there.
Well, especially since you said earlier on is you have to play through all 3 stories, the genocide, neutral, and pacifist, if you want to get the full story of the game. But then it punishes you for trying to experience the full story of the game and experience the genocide run.
The game really likes to punish you for literally no reason other than you're playing it, which kind of goes against the entire idea of the game.
Basically, it's going on this morale value of trying to make people think. I know what they were trying to get at. They were trying to make you think deeper about your actions and how it affects people, but they picked a very, I guess, interesting way. I don't want to say it's bad because it is good. It's got good and it's got bad. It's a very charming game. It's just they picked an interesting way to go about it that doesn't quite make sense, I guess.
Yeah, I probably have a bigger dislike for it than you do, but I don't hate it. I think it's a good game. It's just not wow-worthy. I think a lot of I know we've been talking more about the bads, but I think the thing about them is that they resonate so much because of bad design that it is kind of hard for me to ignore those, and I kind of bring those up more than often because a lot of people have already discussed a lot of the good things. The music's fantastic. There's some really fun characters. The locations are pretty fun, and the kind of mythos of the actual history, minus the save state crap, is pretty fun. It does actually create its own unique world, so that's very nice of it. It's just having to explain why parts of it are bad takes a little more to bring out and kind of go over than explaining why parts of it are good, because music's great, and literally, what do you need to explain about that? The music tracks are fantastic.
Gosh.
I love the final boss theme, and I love the Genocide final boss theme.
They are. It's such a great
And the robot
It
boss.
is. The soundtrack is amazing. I love it. And I really like the art style it is in too. Like it's simple but effective, and the environments were very pretty and matched with that lovely music. It really brought you into this world that was created for this game.
And I think that might be part of why the things that stick out to us as bad kind of really upset us, because it did pull you in for a little bit, and then once, unless you were totally sucked in, which I don't think I ever was 100% sucked in, but I was sucked in enough to going with it, but once it threw me out a little bit, I was kind of out of it for the rest of the game.
Very off-putting. Soon as I got to the neutral ending boss for the first time, when I beat it, it really knocked me, because I was loving the game, loving it 100%. I just really enjoyed every aspect of it until I got to that neutral final boss, and it just took the wind right out of my sails, to the point where I beat it and then was really hoping that I could ignore it and get to the pacifist ending and still enjoy it as much. And thankfully, I could still enjoy it as much. It's just, it was still there. It still happened.
Yeah. And I enjoyed the pacifist run as well myself, and that's another thing I did recording. I didn't record Genocide Run because I played on my own, and I realized just how boring it really is to like, do and watch. The only thing you're really getting out of it is, oh, people are afraid of you. Whoop-de-doo. There's some really fun dialogue exchange at the beginning when you get to Snowden with the Skeleton Bros, but other than that, it's just grinding, and it's kind of, it's like, to make it even more enjoyable, they purposely made it, like, as obnoxious RPG as they could. That's kind of clever, I think. But it was also kind of sad that it was like since they preached you so much about how this is a bad thing to do, that you couldn't kind of enjoy it more, I guess. Because that seemed like the idea of it is that if you really want to make the player feel bad, you should have like let them relish a little bit into what they were doing. So then, when the shock value came of what you did was terrible, you would actually feel terrible, as opposed to the game telling you should feel terrible. But I don't feel terrible for anything.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the game, I loved the characters, but I went through the Genocide Run with, like, sunglasses on. I had no cares. Because, like I said, when I got to the pacifist ending, it really off-put me. It disconnected me from the characters. So I didn't feel...
Pacifist ending did?
Or no,
okay.
Neutral
Okay.
ending. I'm sorry.
The pacifist ending, great. Like, you just, like... I mean, if that's what they want you to intend to stop, that's great, but that's going to leave plot holes, so you kind of need to do the Genocide Run to understand everything, but that brings up more plot holes, so, whatever. At least it's not Kingdom Hearts.
I don't think anything can quite amount to what Kingdom Hearts has evolved into.
So yeah, it's a fun little game. If you haven't played it yet, which I can't imagine if you're watching this video you have not played it by this point, go pick it up. It's still a lot of fun. It has flaws, but if you can get past those flaws, it can be pretty enjoyable.
It is super great, and if what we talked about, I mean, you didn't have a problem with, then by all means go out and get it, because you're going to love the game 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely support it.
Yep. And that's all for this one. Sorry it's a bit long, but I will see you all on the next one. Thank you again for joining me, Maggie, and ciao, everybody.